webinar for the year 2023, which is kicking off the very special occasion of Bahay Tsinoy's 24th anniversary. So thank you all for coming and joining our celebration today. And it seems that it's not only Bahay Tsinoy's 24th anniversary today, but also a special day for our guest speaker. So let's take time to greet him a very happy birthday and spending his special day with us tonight. Happy birthday to our speaker, who you guys will meet later on. My name is Jennifer Kalubadi, and I will be your host for this evening. To start our program, we present the Kaisa Credo and encourage everyone to read out loud along with me. Okay. So please do read out loud with me. This is the Kaisa Credo. The Philippines is our country. It is the land of our birth, the home of our people. Our blood may be Chinese,
but
but
our
our
roots grow deep
roots
in
grow
Philippine
deep in Philippine soil. Our bonds are with the Filipino people. We are
proud of the
proud
many
of the
cultures
many
that have made
cultures
us
that
what
made
we
us
are.
what we are. It is our
It is our
desire,
desire, hope, and
our hope
inspiration.
and aspiration
With the
that with
rest
the
of our people,
rest of our people, we
to
shall
find a
find
rightful place in the
our
Philippine
rightful
sun.
place in the Philippine sun. Okay, thank you, everyone. And to start, I would like to quote our founder, Ms. Teresita Angsi, who is here with us tonight. She said, "We have gone a long way since we opened our doors in January 1999. But we still have miles and miles to go to make the presence of Bahay Tsinoy felt. Before our 25th anniversary next year, it is my fervent wish that our friends and Kaisa family make a goal that will help generate 100 new visitors a year from among our acquaintances. That translates to a minimum of 10,000 visitors who will bring 100,000 visitors and so on. Kaisa has worked hard the last 2 years on the renovation and rehabilitation of the museum. We hope our Kaisa family can continue and support our endeavors. And after we reopen, we hope our Kaisa family will exert great efforts to make Bahay Tsinoy known nationally and internationally. So the vision for Bahay Tsinoy has been set, and today is part of our program to create wider awareness for our Bahay Tsinoy Museum with this talk, Ang Papel ng Bahay Tsinoy sa Paghubog ng Pag-unawa sa Kasaysayan ng Tsinoy sa Pilipinas. By our very esteemed speaker, Filipino public historian, birthday celebrant, Professor Xiao Chua. Welcome everyone, and let's enjoy this learning session tonight. But before we begin, just a few house rules, please. As mentioned in the chat group, we would like to request everyone to please rename their Zoom to indicate their name and organization so that you can have a certificate of attendance after this fellowship webinar. Attendees will be on mute to avoid disruptions during the program and the talk, so please do not unmute. We will also have a question and answer portion after the talk, so those who have questions, please feel free to post them on the chat group, and we will consolidate it for our Q&A portion later. So now, to officially begin our program, okay, I hope we can. All right. So now to officially begin our program, may musical background tayo. May I call on Kaisa para sa Kaunlaran President, Mr. Michael Guzman, for the opening remarks. Mike?
Thank you, Jennifer. Good evening, Kaisa family, friends, partners, board and trustee. Thank you for joining Bahay Tsinoy 24th anniversary webinar. Our guest for tonight is a proud Filipino public historian, a Tsinoy, a teacher at De La Salle University, which is my alma mater, one of the best university in the Philippines. Mr. Xiao Chua. Thank you, Anson Yu, for introducing Xiao Chua to us. Bahay Tsinoy, a museum of the Chinese in the Philippine life, opened its door to the public on January 19, 1999. It's located inside the Kaisa Angelo King Heritage Center along Anda Corner Cabrillo Streets in Intramuros, Manila. And it's managed by Kaisa Palasakanan Incorporated. Due to the pandemic, Bahay Tsinoy has been closed for almost 3 years for renovation. We are supposed to open the museum today, but due to some unforeseen incidents, we are not able to make it. We hope we can have our soft opening before this year's summer holiday. Once we open Bahay Tsinoy, 70% of the display will be new to the public. We will have additional collections, newly discovered documents, improved displays areas, and we will continue the mission of Bahay Tsinoy of promoting a better relationship between two cultures. And to let the Philippine mainstream society better understand about the Chinese in the Philippines. As we wait for the relaunching of Bahay Tsinoy, we will be coming up with more souvenir items. Please follow our Bahay Tsinoy Shopee store for these exciting souvenir items. Before we formally start the talk, let's all now welcome Mayor Ang Si, our immediate past president, to formally introduce our speaker for tonight. 最后，祝大家兔年吉祥，万事如意，身体健康，恭喜发财。Jennifer?
Thank you, Mike, for the very informative opening remarks that have us all very excited to anticipate the opening of the museum again. So now, may I call on Ms. Maya Ang Si for a brief background and the introduction to our speaker.
Good evening, everybody. So as Michael mentioned, we opened in 1999. So we document the history, the lives, and contributions of the Chinese in the Philippines. The museum takes you through the story of the Chinoy in the Philippines, how we changed, how the persona changed from being migrants to becoming part and parcel of the country. In 2020, we were supposed to begin renovations and rehabilitation of the building and the museum, but we were derailed. Everybody was derailed by the pandemic. And so the museum location, Bahay Tsinoy, became the center for a PPE donation drive, a massive PPE donation drive that served more than 600 hospitals around the country. I know 600 doesn't sound a lot, but if you consider that there's only around 1,200 tertiary level hospitals in the country, 600 is half of that. Tertiary level meaning big hospitals with all the equipment and becoming a COVID center. No? All right. So what you're seeing now, I'll just show you a few slides of what we've been doing for the past 24 years. Every year we have 2 or 3 exhibits per year, focusing on various themes. Our last one was right before the pandemic hit in January 2020, an exhibit featuring the collection of Jimmy Flor Cruz, the current ambassador, the current Philippine ambassador to the People's Republic of China. He's been a China watcher since the 1970s. He's lived there since the 1970s and is an expert on China affairs. Over the years, we've also been part of the Pasinaya, the Cultural Center of the Philippines Arts Festival every February. And through the years, so we've been part of that since it began in 2013 up to 2019. It has not yet resumed. But when we open, we hope that Pasinaya will come again, and we will open our doors on the first Sunday of February every year for everyone to come. Okay. We do a lot of exhibits. So this one is the 600th anniversary of the visit of the Sultan of Sulu to China. There's an accompanying book which is available on our Shopee shop. Shameless plug, Jen. Shameless plug, yes. Bahay Tsinoy has Shopee now. All right. Next, please. Okay. And so this is what Bahay Tsinoy has been doing for the past 24 years. To know more about us, follow us on our socials, and continue to correspond with us through email and social media. Now, on to our main event. Uh, we are very honored to have Michael Charleston Chua. Michael Charleston Chua, wow. With us tonight as Bahay Tsinoy celebrates its 24th anniversary. Everyone knows him as Xiao Chua. He's a Filipino historian who makes history very accessible. He knows his way around traditional media and social media kasi superstar si Xiao, and gives the general public, especially the youth, fresh takes on history, showing us that it's not boring, it's not mundane, and it's definitely not useless. This way, Xiao's way of history, we all learn the value and significance of history in our lives in the present day. Follow him on his YouTube channel. He has 42,000 followers on YouTube. Dagdag kayo. Follow him on his YouTube channel. And if you are students, include all your siblings and your aunties and your uncles and your angkong and your ama. If you are teachers, encourage your students to follow Xiao on YouTube as well. Yes, I'm plugging for you, Xiao. So, Xiao, hindi ko matandaan kung kailan kami nagkakilala ni Xiao. Ang alam ko lang nun is naririnig ko yung pangalan ni Xiao Chua. Sabi ko, sino tong Chinoy historian na to? Hindi ko to kilala. Naririnig ko lang siya sa mga history circles. Tapos biglang, alam, magkakilala na kami. Hindi ko alam kung kailan kami na-introduce to each other. Hindi ko alam paano kami unang nagkita, pero basta magkakilala na kami. Tapos forever fangirl na ako, diba? So, alam nyo, so on a personal note, isa sa mga pinanghihinayangan ni Xiao is lumaki siya na hindi naranasan ang kulturang Tsinoy dahil pinalaki silang Pinoy na Pinoy yung kultura, no? So, his great-grandfather is the migrant who came to the Philippines during the American period. Pero, take note, for those who can read Chinese, no, if you notice Xiao's name, his last name is Cheng. He is a Chan. Okay? His great-grandfather is Chan. And nagkaroon ng usapan yung magkakapatid, yung sa lolo ni Xiao. At ang lolo ni Xiao ay si Quintin Chua. Naging Chua na sila. No? So his Chinese name is Cheng Hua Xiao. Okay? So his name is really Chan. Anyway, sa pagdating sa lolo ni Xiao, naging Chua sila, at ito na ang ating batikang historiador. Si Xiao Chua, ang ating panauhing pandangal. He will talk to us tonight about the role of Bahay Tsinoy in understanding the history and story of the Chinese in the Philippines. While we at the museum, of course, have our own interpretations, we are very privileged to gain such valuable insight into how far the museum's reach really is and how deep it is. We look forward to learning from Xiao tonight. Ladies and gentlemen of all ages, our speaker, Professor Xiao Chua.
Makasaysayang araw po sa ating lahat. Kinakabahan ako. Makasaysayang araw, gabi sa inyong lahat. No? First of all, I am privileged na maimbitahan for the 24th anniversary of Bahay Tsinoy. Like, today talaga yon, diba? Tapos na taon pa na this is also my 39th birthday. So isang naisip ko, I was wondering, what was I doing during my birthday in 1999 when Bahay Tsinoy was open? No? So, yan ang aking ano. Now, of course, my story, some of my story will be in the context also of the talk that I'm going to give to you today. So, isang kailangan nating malaman, nakakatuwang isipin na, ay, Tsinoy pala ako. I never really thought of it that way because pinalaki nga kaming Tagalog at Kapampangan. Oh. And sige, ituloy na natin. Silagay na natin dito. Alright. Ang papel ng Bahay Tsinoy sa paghubog ng pag-unawa sa kasaysayan ng Tsinoy sa Pilipinas. So, you will see the context why Bahay Tsinoy is important. No? So, it's a personal story, my personal story of Bahay Tsinoy. So, if whatever it is, kung ano man ang masabi ko na baka hindi nag-agree ang Bahay Tsinoy, I will fully be responsible for it. But this is my view as someone who had visited the place and nakinabang doon sa kanyang purpose at sa kanyang existence. Now, nalungkot ako na hindi pa pala siya bukas. So, masaya din ako, malungkot ako, pero masaya din ako kasi baka ako yung magbibigay sa inyo ng bird's eye view, what it looked like. And it's also documentation kasi babagbagin na pala yung ilang bahagi nito. So, Chanhua Xiao, Michael Charleston Chua. Okay, sige, simulan natin. Muli maraming salamat sa Kaisa para sa Kaunlaran, ang siyang nangangalaga sa Bahay Tsinoy. Salamat sa mga organizers at salamat din sa Tsinoy TV for shouting us out sa kanilang Facebook page. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, of course. No? And sa mga teachers, may website po tayo, xiaochua.net, bangkanisiao.wordpress.com. Okay, Kong Hei Patchoy, Gong Si Fatchay, malapit na po yung Chinese New Year. Of course, ang dami nang gustong makipag-interview again with me dahil daw akala nila marunong daw ako sa Chinese feng shui. No, mukhang nagkakamali po sila. Si Hans Kua po yun. Hindi po si Xiao Chua po yun. Kung Chinese food naman po, hindi po ako si Ninong Rai. Okay? Kung kayo yung nagkakamali, hindi po ako si Ninong Rai. Ako po ay isang historiador. Okay. Ako po'y pinanganak noong 39 years ago, 1984, from Charles Derecho Chua. No? So, yung tatay ko po yan, si Charles Derecho Chua. Si Charles Derecho Chua po ay anak ng isang half Filipino, half Chinese na si Quintin Chua. Si Quintin Chua po, kung nakikita niyo po sa kanyang uniforme, ay siya po ay sa isang school bayanihan, pero meron hong nationalist flag. Kasi dati yung mga Chinese sa Pilipinas, a lot of them are Fukien, ay yung dahil nga meron may People's Republic of China at that time, ang kanilang panunumpa ay hindi sa PRC kundi sa tinatawag natin na nationalist, yung Kuomintang. Yan yung konteksto niyan. At nabuhay sila, of course this is after the war, pero nabuhay sila pre-war pa, no, dito sa Pilipinas, no. So si Quintin Chua namatay ng napakabata. So he was born in the 1940s. 1940, namatay siya ng 1982. It's like 42 years old lang yung lolo ko nung namatay. Hindi ko na siya naabutan. And that is also the reason why hindi na kami nakapag-Chinese. Kasi yung tatay ko, maraming nakakatawang kwento ng kanyang pagbabalik-balik sa Chinese one. Kung di ako nagkakamali. Na memorize na lang niya yung Chinese one, kaya siya nakapasa ulit. No? Parang meron siyang sinasabi lagi noon na kasalita na, what se shout guay o totwa. Hindi ko naiintindihan. Yun pala, my school is big pala yun. Both in Hokkien and in Mandarin. O Cantonese ba yun? Basta. Yan ang lagi namin naririnig. Tawa kami ng tawa, no? Pagka naririnig namin siya na gano'n. Kasi hindi nga namin siya maintindihan, no? At hindi rin niya naiintindihan yung sarili niya. Yun pala, my school is big. Yung kanyang father, ni Quintin Chua, no, nung tatay ng tatay ko, ay isang Chinese migrant from Fujian na ang pangalan ay Chan Bunlin. So ito po si Mr. Chan Bunlin. Ito po yung lolo ko, si Chua na siya po dati ang name niya ay Chan Huan Tit. Chan Huan Tit. At saka ito si Mr. Pedro Chan o Pedro Chua. Ito po yung ancestor naming babae na nanay ni Chan Bunlin. Okay. Now, meron pong nakipag-usap sa amin na kamag-anak namin nung pinost ko po yung pictures na ito. Apparently, dahil pareho yung generational name, Chan Bunlin and then Chan Huan Tit and then Chan Kok yung generation ng father ko, kami daw ay Chan Hua. Yung generation kay Chan Hua. No?
I'm very
Karoon po ng
excited.
technical
I
difficulties.
Huwag ko
Okay
lang
na po ba tayo?
Okay na
Naririnig
po.
ka na po. Alright.
Naririnig na po ulit.
Tuloy-tuloy na po tayo mga
Tuloy-tuloy,
kaibigan.
ulitin.
Tuloy-tuloy tayo sa ating kwentuhan. No? Natigil po tayo doon sa aking kwento na yung pong si Chan Bunlin, ang kanyang yung great grandfather ko, Chan Huan Tit, yung grandfather ko, Chan Kok yung generation ng tatay ko. Kami daw supposedly Chan Hua, no? Nakalimutan ko kung ano yung name ng kaibigan natin na yon, pero kamag-anak ko siya, no? At eventually, of course, sinabi niya sa amin na dahil we came from the same family with the same generational name, we came from any village in Fujian, China, no? At ayan, namatay siya 1912, nabuhay siya 1912 to 1957, and then napangasawa niya Pilipina. Ang great ancestor namin ay yung philosopher na a disciple ni Confucius, na ang pangalan ay si Zheng Shen or Master Zen or Zheng Zi. So meron akong kaugnayan kay Confucius. Pero huwag kayong ma-confuse kasi hindi si Confucius yung kamag-anak ko, yung disciple niya lang na si Zheng Shen. Okay. So, yan yung konteksto ng aking buhay. Lumaki ako sa Tarlac City. Tandaan natin na ang Tarlac City ay isang lugar na marami pong Chinese Filipinos doon. Kilala po ang Tarlac doon sa tinatawag natin na mga, ang tawag dito, yung mga hardware stores. No? And in fact, yung aking grandfather, si Chua, Chan Huan Tit, ay naging bahagi ng trade na yon, yung mga spare parts and all of that. No? Yun yung kanilang naging business noong panahon na siya ay nabubuhay pa. So yan yung kwento namin. Now, sa Tarlac kami, and in many ways, parang dahil wala na yung grandfather ko, hindi kami masyadong na-orient doon sa Chinese culture. And that's why, iniisip ko noon, nahihiya ako to call myself Tsinoy kasi hindi ako marunong mag-Chinese. Of course, may stereotype na kung sanang marunong lang akong mag-Pukien o Mandarin, baka daw mayaman na daw ako ngayon. May ganon na, again, the stereotyping na nangyayari na komo ikaw ay Chinese. Although I guess, ako'y nangihinayang din dahil I know that my world will be wider if I know my Chinese language. Kung kayan man ay Mandarin o Pukien. So, but this is the context of Tarlac. And I will show you why the Bahay Tsinoy is important. I will show you now. This is Tarlac in 1971. Okay, merong anniversary ni Francisco Macabulos, the General of the Revolution. And if you're going to look at the newspaper, September 19, 1971, The Monitor, ang nakalagay na title ay Tuta ni Mao or Macabulos. So, of course, 1971 was the time when merong problem of rebellion that is being ascribed as an influence of Maoism from China. No? So, Tuta ni Mao or Macabulos. Si Macabulos yung general of the revolution. So, parang may anti-Chinese sentiment from this. if you're going to look at the editorial cartoons of the following pages, no? Remember that Ferdinand Marcos before, pinabagbag niya yung mga Chinese signages. No? Sabi niya, dapat hindi magkakaroon ng mga Chinese signages diyan. Pinabagbag niya yan. No? And of course, he was seen as a nationalist and he was hailed as a nationalist here. And makikita nyo yung alien na nakalagay doon, they are referring to Chinese. No? And remember that wala pang Tsinoy term, walang Filipino-Chinese. If you are a Chinese born in the Philippines, you are a Chinese. Oh? Chinese ang tawag tingin sa'yo. No? Whether you are a half Chinese ka at gusto kang pauwiin sa China dahil nang-aabuso kayo, yun ang tingin dyan. Ayan. So parang kinakain niya yung maraming bahagi ng... This is like what? This is like Nazism. If you're going to look at this kind of rhetoric. And this is a few years after the Nazi Germany, yung World War II lang. O ito, merong dedicated to the memory of Francisco Macabulos and all Filipino national heroes. Pinapakiringgan na naman yung mga tinatawag natin tinatawag nilang mga, true Filipinos daw. Merong mga true Filipinos. And then yung tinatawag natin na may mga aliens. May mga aliens daw. Yan. Instead of the present state of people and country or grappling corruption reality are now a way of life. Di ba? Where heartless Filipinos serve and connive with aliens in their exploitation and perfidy. Aliens are destroying our tendon and national fiber. So sino yung tinutukoy na aliens dito? No? Tapos yan, display your patriotism. Ilagay yung flag. Pero it may racist tendency. Because ayan na nga, meron ng ganitong mga cartoons na dahil maraming Chinese businessmen na nandito noon, parang hindi sila mga Pilipino and that's why they are abusing. Ganyan, nakalagay dyan. So, in many ways, this is 1971. I was born in 1984. Ibang-iba na kasi alam naman natin, President Marcos, because he was opening up to China as well, diba, the PRC, ay nagkaroon din ng programa doon sa tinatawag na naturalization. And of course, this is very a political statement. And you know me, I am anti-dictatorship, but you should understand why the Filipino-Chinese, a lot of them were pro-Marcos and are still pro-Marcos. Because tignan yung pang-api na ginagawa sa kanila, and then hindi sila tinatanggap bilang Pilipino. And then suddenly you open up the legal processes so that they can be naturalized. So ito yung napakagandang kumbaga, by 1984 nung pinanganak ako, medyo nabawasan na yan. Pero nandun pa rin. Halimbawa, meron ako naaalala nun na tinatawag ko lasang inchik. Yung lagi ko naririnig sa mga matatanda sa amin, yung McDonald's daw lasang inchik. Hindi ko rin gets. Pero nag-stick sa akin yung McDonald's ay lasang inchik. Whatever that means. Nung yan ay nasa UP na ako, at ako'y first year college, pinagalitan ako ng teacher ko. Nung sinabi ko sa klase na, McDonald's food, lasang inchik ka ako. Ay pinagalitan talaga ako. That was in 2001. Hindi ko pa nare-realize yung racism. No? And of course, bakit naman hindi? Okay lang yung lasang Chinese because Chinese food is a beautiful food. It's delicious food. Di ba? And of course, ngayon, naghahanap na tayo ng Chinese food. No? Ako, gusto ko ng Chinese food. But this is what I would like to tell you. Yung ginawa ng kaisa, so this is pre-Bahay Tsinoy. Remember this. This is pre-Bahay Tsinoy. This is kaisa para sa Kaunlaran Initiative. Okay. I can clearly remember this because in 1991, I was in grade 1. In 1992, I was in grade 2. Kung di ako nagkakamali, kapag Sunday, pinapanood ko itong Pinpin. Now, I do not remember any episode, but the only thing that I remember, na para siyang batibot, but I watch it, and parang nagkakaroon ng understanding na the Chinese is part of Philippine life. The Chinese in the Philippines is part of Philippine life. So, ang laking impact nun, grade 1 ako. Pero naiintindihan ko. And lalo pat, surname ko, Chua. no? At ang laging ginigit dito, Pilipino ang mga Tsinoy. Oh? At yan ay makikita natin. So, Pinpin, di ba? Eventually, of course, malalaman natin, Pinpin din yung apelido ng first printer ng Pilipinas, si Tomas Pinpin. So, maraming awards na hinakot ang Pinpin dahil napagandang palabas para sa mga bata. No? So, eventually, of course, sa Pinpin, may lagi silang pinapalabas doon na hindi ko makalimutan yung mga commercial. Ito yung tulay. Na may isang dyaryo na nag-exist na hindi umaabot sa amin. At ito yung tulay. No? The Chinese-Filipino Fortnightly. Yan, ganyan yung sinasabi doon sa commercial. And of course, nagkaroon na ako ng consciousness that there is such a periodical called Tulay even when I was young. So when I first went to Bahay Tsinoy, which I cannot remember when, kasi baka hindi pa uso yung mga picture nun, digicam. Pero feeling ko nung college ako, no? Pinuntahan ko yan before ako magka-digicam. No? Nakakatanggap ako ng tulay from that. No? Free lang ibinibigay sa Bahay Tsinoy. Alam nyo ba hanggang ngayon, nakaipon yung mga tulay newspapers ko. In fact, naipon sila na sobrang dami na nila na kailangan ko nang magbawas. Hirap na hirap ako magbawas. Dahil lahat halos ng issue ay maganda. Lahat ng issue ay may magandang article. Oh? Isa na sa pinaka-paborito ko, recently, yung kay Anson Yu. Yung kanyang inisa-isa yung meaning doon sa Jones Bridge ng mga kahulugan ng mga bagay-bagay na nakalagay doon. So, this is funny because lagi ako nag-iisip, sana may best of tulay. Kasi yung newsprint, madaling masira yan. No? Pag inipon mo, napakahirap ipunin. Pero kung may best ang tulay, sana meron para magkaroon ng magkaroon kami ng kopya. Nakakatawa kasi ginawa na pala yan noon. Pero hanggang 1997 lang. So sana po yan ulit ay Uy. Happy. Ayan. Okay, sige. So, nung lumalaki din ako, nung elementary at high school ako, nauuso po yung mga kidnapping ng mga Chinese businessman. 'Di ba? At isa pong sobrang tumatak sa isip ko ay isang babaeng It's Anik. Itong si It's Anik, paki-exclude dito.
Xiao, I made you the host. Can you click on the share option and then
Yeah, sure.
advanced sharing option, sharing by host only.
Sharing by host. So, saan ko ilalagay? Saan ko i-on yun? Sa ano?
Sa share screen po.
Sa
Yung
share
maliit
screen,
na
tapos
arrow.
share.
Yung maliit
May
na arrow sa
arrow.
share screen. May advanced sharing options.
Advanced sharing options. Ito, advanced.
Tapos host only. Host only.
Wala. Wala nakalagay.
Wait lang. I'll try it.
Sige, try. Patuloy ko muna ha.
Sige po.
Alright.
Sige. Pakisilip po, kaya po mag-share.
Nawala, Day. Ayan. Ayan na si Mami. Okay.
Alright.
So, remember, no? This is in the 1990s. Uso ang kidnapping. Sobrang tuwang-tuwa na kung nakikita na lumalaban itong isang babae sa mga kidnapper na ito. Meron silang grupo nun, yung Crusade Against Violence. Hindi ko makalimutan. Kasama niyo yung isang abogado. No? At itong si Ma'am Tessie Angsi, Teresita Angsi, talagang hindi ko talaga makalimutan. No? So tumatak siya sa isip ko. At tumatak siya sa isip ko as much as nung una ko siyang nakita sa Ramon Magsaysay Award, no? Noong 1999, the year that the Bahay Tsinoy was created, nag-fanboy talaga ako. Nag-fanboy ako. Ay, si Ma'am Tessie Angsi, I know her. Tapos, ang alam ko talaga siya si Crusade Against Violence. Wala pang Bahay Tsinoy sa aking consciousness noon. This was in 1999. Basta siya yung lumalaban dun sa mga kriminal. Yun ang aking ano sa kanya. So of course, at that year, January 19, 1999, binuksan in the presence of Corazon Cojuangco Aquino, former President of the Republic. And siya rin po yung Ramon Magsaysay Awardee in 1998. So kasunod lang a few months after, yan po ay siya pong nag-open kasama si Ma'am Tessie at yung kaisa nung tinatawag nating Bahay Tsinoy Heritage Museum. At yung si Lipang, no, ito sikat nito eh. Yung ang kanyang chairman of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress of China ay bumisita sa Bahay Tsinoy noong year 2002. So, yan po ang diyan, yan po yung mga highlights ng pagbubukas. Now, hindi pa ako agad nakabisita. Feeling ko hindi pa ako agad nakabisita, pero si Ma'am Tessie Angsi, very active. Na-invite pa namin siya sa isang conference sa UP Lipunang Pagkasaysayan in 2004 kung saan siya ay nagsalita about Tsinoys. So, syempre happy kami na na-invite namin siya. At syempre kasama niya nung araw na yon si Mr. Gobon Juan. No? Now, wala yung picture ni Gobon Juan. Okay. Anyway, one of my first consciousness of Bahay Tsinoy was not really the museum itself, but the books. As a history major in UP Diliman, yung mga libro ang napag-aralan ko. No? So for example, ang mga unang-una mong babasahin nung panahon na yon, yung berde ay yung blue na librong yan, blue, pink, at saka yung yellow. Yan yung mga usually na ipinapabasa noon. So ano ba yan? Yung Lupang Tinubuan ay mga kasabihan na isinali ni Joaquin C. sa Tagalog from the heroes of China and the Philippines. So imaginein mo yung, and I think other countries din. Pero doon mo makikita na nationalism, although iba-iba tayo ng bansa, no? May understanding tayo of how we should love our country. No? And beautiful yun na thought for me. When I read this, I was in college. No? At so it widens my understanding na hindi kailangang yung nationalism ko ay dapat pure Filipino. Hindi siya ganun eh. No? Nilalawakan natin dahil inclusivity ang kailangan. Isa pa yung Filipinos in China before 1500 na sinulat ni William Henry Scott. Ito yung isang role ng Bahay Tsinoy at ng kaisa na napakahalaga. Kasi kaming mga historians, we need documents. And of course, some of us will learn Spanish to get to the Spanish archives. Pero a lot of us hindi man naisip na ang dami ring records sa China. Written in Chinese. So the great service of Bahay Tsinoy is they are able to translate this and make it available to Filipino scholars. Oh, yan ginagawa ni si President Michael Chen Guzman. Kita nyo kasama natin nung huling nag-meeting tayo, si Anson Yun nandyan at ayan si Mr. Gobon Juan. Saglit lang may papakita lang ako sa inyo bago tayo magtuloy. Meron akong picture na itinatago dito eh. Ito. Ayan. Ito yung picture namin ni Mr. Gobon Juan nung kami ay bata pa. Ayan. Nakita nyo? This was in 2004. So, nagkita na kami noon at napirmahan niya yung aking mga aklat na binili noon sa kaisa para sa kaunlaran. Saglit lang. Okay, ito. Ding. Next station, Petigo Belmonte. Ding. Okay. So, ang isang hindi ko makalimutan doon sa Filipinos before 1500 ay yung pangalan ng Pilipinas sa islands ng Pilipinas ay Mai. No? Mai, which was believed to be Mindoro because there's Mait in Mindoro. But we now believe mas pinaniniwalaan natin ngayon that it's probably Laguna. For Mai could have been Bai. no? Mai is the first name of the Philippines in the records, the earliest records. Napaka-importante niyan. Kaya nga masaya ako na eventually, yung naging girlfriend ko, no? Ang pangalan niya, pinangalan siya sa Mai. So si Ma'am Mai yan. Hello po. Yes. Ifinlex talaga no? So, may consciousness ako niyan because of the Bahay Tsinoy publications. No, na kung walang Bahay Tsinoy, kakalat siguro yan. Pero laki ng kanilang role talaga. And of course, they also very cheap, hindi madali siyang bilhin, na easily available yung mga iba't ibang publications na importante sa mga scholars like si Edgar Bigberg, of course yung mga Selden maps and other maps, no, na dinadala sa Pilipinas, and then of course yung pinakilala sa atin na may isang general of the revolution, no? Kaya mahalaga itong sinulat nila na si Tessie Angsi, Gobon Juan at ni Joaquin C. Yung pagkilala doon sa Chinese general in the Philippine Revolution, na si pangalan, bigla ko nang nakalimutan. Kilala ko yan. Sino na nga ba ito? Sa tagal-tagal ko nang
Ignacio Paua.
Ignacio Paua. Tagal-tagal ko nang hindi kinikwento yung istorya ng Cavite Revolution. Si Ignacio, thank you Sir Michael, the General Ignacio Paua, no? So ayan, no, meron pang ibang sinulat at sinalin si Mr. Gobon Juan na mga aklat at si Joaquin C, lahat sila, no? And of course, walang katapusang production si Ma'am Tessie Angsi, no? Sa Chinese in the Philippines na ilang volume na yata, yung pinakahuling akin na kuha, volume 5, no? Na patuloy, walang katapusang pagre-research na ginagawa ni Ma'am Tessie Angsi at ng iba pa. So okay. Paano nakatulong sa akin yung Bahay Tsinoy, no? Bilang isang tao, yung mismong museo. So, we'll go to some of the items in the museum. Saka lang, ilang oras pa ba ako? Okay, hanggang 8 pa naman ako di ba? So, I will now give you a rundown of some of the themes in the museum. Okay, so, well, this one, I don't know if it's in the museum, but it's in the GBR Museum. No? At ang nakalagay ay Sangle Filipina daw siya. Sangle, so Sangle Filipina, ibig sabihin mistizo, no? Titingnan natin mamaya kung ano ba yung Sangle Filipina, no? But anyway, even before colonialism came, ang pinapakita ng Bahay Tsinoy ay meron ng Pilipinas. Hindi man siya buong Pilipinas, meron ng kultura sa Pilipinas. So, Bahay Tsinoy, although it's about the Chinese in the Philippine life, is not about China. And it's not a Chinese museum. Tama yung kanina na sinasabi, it's a Filipino museum. Dahil pinakita nito na ang Pilipinas ay mayroon ng kasaysayan, mayroong kultura, may mga kagamitan, at yung kagamitan na yun nandun, nakadisplay sa estante. Hindi ko lang nalagay yung picture dito. Nakalagay sa estante itong mga kagamitan na ito. At may mga kagamitang Chino dito dahil may trade na nangyayari. Jars, may mga jars. At ito, meron masusyak ka sa Bahay Tsinoy. Kasi pagpasok mo doon sa museum, may malaking barko. Laki! No? Yung malaking barko ay isang sampan. No? At doon sa sampan, sa tabi nun, may isang Chinese merchant na nakikipag-trade sa isang Pilipino, no? Bago dumating ang mga Spanish. So, yun yung pinapakita dyan. Now, pagka alam mo to, maiintindihan mo rin bakit contested din yung West Philippine Sea o yung South China Sea. Dahil yan ay isang common sea lane ng tinatawag nating Southeast Asian trade route to China. No, yan. Yung daan ng ating mga kaharian at ito'y tutungo sa China. No? Yan ang kanilang mga tinetrade nung unang panahon. At very, very active sila sa pagtitrade dito. Pumupunta sila lagi dito. They always go here. So, kung titingnan natin yung Boxer Codex na tinatawag natin, na meron din sa Bahay Tsinoy ito. makikita natin yung mga itsura ng mga Pilipino noon. Now, let me tell you that this document, the Boxer Codex, is believed to be written by a Spaniard in 1590 as a report of Gomez Dasmariñas, but also it was believed na ito'y pinadrawing sa isang Chinese. So it is a Chinese interpretation of how Filipinos look. At makikita din sila doon sa Boxer Codex. Now, again, one of the earliest kung saan binanggit yung Mai bilang name ay si Xiao Chua, which is yung kanyang work on the Chu Fanchi, no? At nabanggit niya nga yung Mai, nabanggit na yan, which we believe now to be the Laguna de Bahay area. Laguna de Bahay, kaya Mai. So, this was also recorded in what we call the Laguna Copper Plate inscription. So, may kingdoms talaga dyan. Pila Laguna is one of them. Tondon in the Tondo area, Manila area is one of them, etc. etc. So, isang importanteng pinapakita sa museo natin at sa Bahay Tsinoy, yung kaisa in general, ay nagkaroon tayo ng contact with the Sultan of Sulu or the Sultan of Sulu, Paduka Batara, had a contact with the Emperor of China. No? Of course, yun lang yung medyo kamangha-mangha. Yun yung medyo kamangha-manghang kwento doon. Hindi tinutuloy yung iba. Hindi tinutuloy ng iba yung kwento na natsugi yung Sultan of Sulu habang nasa China. And that forced the relatives of the Sultan of Sulu, some of the relatives, to stay in China. And eventually, namuhay sila doon and they were treated like royalty by the Chinese emperor. Because royal naman talaga si Sultan of Sulu, Paduka Batara. So nandun pa yung grave niya and being taken care of by Muslims who did not change the religion after many, many years, pero naging Chinese na sila. So in the book launch in Bahay Tsinoy, na-meet ko yung ilan sa kanila na pumunta pa dito sa Pilipinas. So yan yung mga events ng Bahay Tsinoy. At saka ito si Kiram, no? Jaisal Kiram of the Kiram family of the Sultan of Sulu. At yung kanyang maganda ring kamag-anak, no? Doon sa book launch nung tinatawag na The Ties That Bind. So this very small book, very powerful because dito nyo makikita Muslim history in the Philippines, Filipino-Chinese relations history, diplomatic history, inclusivity, and also very powerful because it tells us that the Chinese emperor respected Filipinos during that time. Diba? So, yan yung magandang makikita natin. Now, of course, when we talk about the Kingdom of Manila, diba, dumating yung mga Kastila, nandun na yung mga Chinese. Noon pa. No? At tinawag nga silang Sangli. Sangli. Now, of course, Sangli was always said na parang merchant dati. Merchant, nagne-negosyo. But again, this is one of the Bahay Tsinoy contributions to our historiography. Nakita yung mas magandang kopya ng Boxer Codex to show the real characters, which eventually nalaman natin na hindi talaga market or merchant, but Sangli is really from the word Sanglay, Sanglay, Shengdi, Shengyi, which is a frequent visitor. Shanglai in Mandarin, meaning frequent visitor. Xionglai in Hokkien. Recent yan, very recent. Dati, tinatawag ka, nasa mga Bahay Tsinoy booklet, pamphlet, merchant. No? Pero ngayon, naiba na rin. So yan, patuloy natin yung iniiba. Why? Because they're frequent visitors in the country. Lagi sila dito. Okay? So ito yung mas magandang Boxer Codex na dito na picture. Ito yung isang fun fact sa Bahay Tsinoy. First 200 years of Spanish colonialism, 90% of Chinese came from Fujian and the rest from Canton. So kaya marami dito Fukien Chinese. No? Of course, they also became part of what we call the galleon trade. Ito hindi Bahay Tsinoy, ito thanks to, shout out to the Ayala Museum. Some of the pictures are not mine, copyright not intended to be infringed. But the Chinese also became part of what we call the galleon trade. No? Now, which is the longest trade route ever in history from Manila to Acapulco to Spain. Now, this is the Parian district of Manila. Kasi isang nililiwanag din, although siguro baka mas sa guiding ito nililiwanag, ano, rather than doon sa display, was that there is merong paghihiwalay doon sa ethnic Chinese who remained ethnic Chinese without changing the religion and the Christianized Chinese. So the ethnic Chinese remained in what
Hello,
we call
everyone. Hello. Hello, everyone.
Yes.
Could I have your
Yes.
attention for a moment, please?
Yes.
Could I have everyone's attention?
Go ahead, Xiao.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, yung paghihiwalay nung tinatawag natin na mga ethnic Chinese na nasa liwasang Bonifacio ngayon or Loton, which is the part of the Parian, tinatawag, Parian, and yung Christianized Chinese, which is in the Binondo area, na eventually naging Chinatown. Which is ironic kasi sila yung Christianized. Diba? Sila yung Christianized Chinese. But anyway, so the people of Intramuros, the Spaniards built Intramuros as their citadel, but they go outside to get products. And ang nangyari ay doon nagpupunta yung mga Chinese para makipag-trade sa kanila. So, the Bahay Tsinoy, what should I say, very, very craftily, no, reproduced the scene in the Parian, in the museum. So, ayan, no, nakita nyo, yung Puerta del Parian, ginaya. Small version po. No? Small version, kaya makikita nyo sila yung mga nagtitinda, no, nandoon. No? At syempre, yung contribution din sa arts ay makikita din sa Bahay Tsinoy. Yung tinatawag natin na first printer in the Philippines, first printing in the Philippines, na ginawa ng mga Dominicano, pero we believe that they were Chinese. In fact, more than the Doctrina Christiana, the first book in the Philippines is really the Doctrina Christiana in Chinese. No? Siya nang talagang, sabi ni Alberto Campo, yan talaga ang una. Hindi ito. Ito pangalawa lang. Ito talaga yung una. Oh? So, yung Shilu na tinatawag natin, the Doctrina Christiana in Chinese, the first book printed in the Philippines was a book in Chinese. Oh? So, yan yung Christianized, nasa Binondo sila, di ba? Which eventually, of course, the Mestiza China will also come from there. At sa Binondo nga sila tumira. No? Which now is the Chinatown. The famous Chinatown, Manila Chinatown. Okay. Now, itong mga Dasmariñas, medyo, I think they're also part of the building of Binondo, if I'm not mistaken, ano? As a enclave for Christianized Chinese. Pero malaki din yung papel nila kasi sa Chinese history because itong mga Dasmariñas na ito, yung isa masyadong cruel sa kanyang mga tauhan. Pinatay siya ng mga Chinese na tauhan niya. And that's why there was a retaliation eventually which killed around 25 to 30,000 Chinese. No? Na eventually, this will also be repeated many times, including during the time of the son of Gomez Perez Dasmariñas, Luis Perez Dasmariñas. So, maraming Chinese massacres na nangyari na dinepict din sa Bahay Tsinoy. No? Which means, eto, no? Yes, the Chinese were visitors here, but since they were also under colon, they just wanted to be. Actually, kawawa yung mga Chinese dito sa Pilipinas. Ito, I think, pinaliwanag to sa museum noon, or at least in one of the lectures. That the Chinese in the Philippines, first, the Emperor of China don't want to protect them. Because they were seen as deserters. mga taksil sa China. Oh? So walang protection from the Chinese emperor. The other thing is wala ring protection from the colonial government because they were feared by the colonial government. And so we, the Filipinos and the Sakli ay talagang nagkaroon ng tinatawag na pang-aapi na ginawa sa atin. Okay? And that's why if you're going to look at the guns of Intramuros, nakatapat sa Parian, nakatapat sa Binondo, praning na praning dahil ang akala ay laging mag-aalsa. Of course, alam din natin yung paghihiwalay sa mga Tsino sa kanilang sementeryo dahil yung mga Katolikong Pilipino ay nililibing sa Campo Santo. Pero kung hindi ka Katoliko, ililibing ka doon sa tinatawag na hindi santo na kampo, hindi banal na lugar. At andun, Chinese cemetery. At doon yung maintindihan kung bakit doon sa Maria Clara at Ibarra, tinanggal ni Padre Damaso yung katawan ni Don Rafael Ibarra sa Kristiyanong sementeryo at gustong dalhin sa Chinese cemetery pero tinapo na lang sa ilog. It's really an insult. Gustong insultuhin ng mga Ibarra. Ganon kasama yung tingin sa Chinese nung panahon na yon. Oh? Then again, marami pa rin Chinese, hindi lang sa Binondo, sa Tondo, no? Sa Quiapo, na paborito kong parokya, at sa Santa Cruz. So, nagkaroon ng pagkalat sa area na yan. At nagkaroon nga nung tinatawag na yan, yung mga mistiso. So, they intermarried. Ito yung ano dyan, di ba? Ngayon, parang meron tayong ano, no? Ngayon, parang meron tayong bamboo curtain. Oh? Pagka hindi Chinese, hindi mag-aasawa. Pag hindi parehong Chinese. Ngayon na lang yan. Noon, para magkaroon ng survival ng mga Chinese, they intermarry para dumami yung kanilang lahi. Oh? So they intermarry with the Spaniards, they intermarry with the Chinese. So dyan na rin yung nagkakaroon ng mga pagkaing Chinese na ina-adapt natin sa Pilipino. Na eventually pinapakita rin ng Bahay Tsinoy na although ito ay may heritage of Chinese, these are Filipino food. Diba? Walang lagi ko to naririnig sa walang pansit canton sa Guangzhou. Sa Canton, walang lumpiang Shanghai sa Shanghai. These are Filipino food, no? Siopaw naging
Mr.
Pinoy
Xiao,
na
Mr. Xiao.
with Chinese heritage influence, kumbaga. No? So ayan, may lechon pa, nagluluto ng lechon dito sa Jose Honorato Lozano painting na tinatawag na. So makikita natin yung iba't ibang mga yung nanggugupit, ito actually naghahanap ako ng ganito. Kailangan ko po ng nagtatanggal sa tenga. Baka meron kayong maire-recommenda sa akin, kailangan ko yan, And of course, eto na nga yung iba pang mga prints na makikita natin, Yung joke, ito yung joke na nakakatuwa ng mga guides. Siya daw yung ninuno ng 7-Eleven. So, yan yung minsan nagjo-joke sila na siya yung ninuno ng 7-Eleven, At maraming actually magugutom ka sa Bahay Tsinoy kasi may isang buong kwarto doon. Hindi ko lang nailagay dito sa kakamadali. Na puro siopaw, pansit, lahat yung mga Chinese food na gusto natin. Dim sum, what have you, no? So ayan, pati yung nagbabasa. Kasi 'di ba hindi lahat ng Indio nakakapagbasa. May mga Chinese pwede sila magbasa, magsulat, no? At mga pintero. Ito yung isang amazing Alit lang ng museum, Pero ang dami niyang nailagay in one area. 'Di ba? Tapos may replica pa. So may replica ng Parian, may replica ng barkong malaki, ng sampan, may replica pa ng San Agustin Church na pasad yung pintuan. So ayun yun, ito yan. Now of course, we all know that the San Agustin Church, even if it's a Catholic Spanish church, was constructed by the Chinese. So yan yung dyan. May mga Chinese lion nga pudog dyan, no? Anyway, so ayan, ayan ang mga, ayan, may tops pa. Ano yung tops? Ano nga ba sa Tagalog yan? Yung,
Trompo.
Tompo, thank you. So, ayan, ano? And then, of course, yung music, musician, maraming Chinese ang mahilig sa music. Kaya sila yung mga professional musicians noong panahon na iyon. Oh? At syempre yun, yung mga, paborito ko yun, yung gumagawa ng sushi, tsaka ng mga alahas, alahero, ganyan, etc. etc. Now, sa arts, makikita natin yung influence ng Chinese at marami nito sa Bahay Tsinoy. This one is not Bahay Tsinoy, this is San Agustin Church. The ivory is of course, talagang ang China ay na-master nila yung ivory, casting in ivory. Pero makikita niyo rin na ito, Virgin Mary, at alam naman natin na usually they're Western looking silang dinidepict. Pero dito, Chinese looking. You know sino gumawa, you just know who did it. Okay? And this also, in a way, makikita natin yung syncretism. Ibig sabihin, the Bahay Tsinoy makes us understand that our Catholic faith is not purely European or Israeli. Diba? Our Catholic faith is really a mixture of Filipino, indigenous, and many times Chinese influence. So halimbawa, there is a theory na kasi itong Birhen ng Kaysasay na may replica tayo dito, Kaysasay in Taal, Batangas, is someone na natagpuan yan dyan ng mga Spanish. Nung kung natagpuan siya ng Spanish, nandyan na yan, some people believe that it is actually a mama macho in Chinese beliefs. Mama macho. That's one belief. Okay, that's one theory. No? Tapos parang ang nangyari, nagkaroon ngayon ng, kumbaga parang sa Cebu na Batubalani sa Gugma, na magnet of the heart, na magnetize some of our Chinese believers, Christians, na kay Birhen ng Kaysasay. Kaya maraming Tsinoy na deboto ng Birhen ng Kaysasay at pinoposisyon siya as a Chinese kumbaga goddess, no? Saglit lang to. Yan. So, of course, sa Binondo Church din, at ito makikita natin to sa Bahay Tsinoy, may mga estatwa sila, may reminders. Yung mga banal natin, our holy Filipinos are actually may Chinese blood. Like St. Lorenzo Ruiz de Manila, St. Laurentius Ruiz of Manila, and the Mother Ignacia del Espiritu Santo, the founder of the Religious of the Virgin Mary. Si Mother Ignacia ay servant of God. Oh? At hindi lang siya maging santo dahil hindi siya martyr at nawawala yung katawan niya. So sana may bones na matagpuan kay Mother Ignacia. No? We see the syncretism all around Binondo, where you see Chinese elements in the Christianity of the people there. Okay. So, okay na to. Wala na. Bigan actually is yung sinasabing Spanish district sa Bigan is actually a Chinese district, Filipino Chinese. Colonial district, Kasanglayan. No? Lugar yan ng mga sangli. So, nandyan din yung, so of course, sa mga sangli, meron ding mga leaders. At dito ko natutuhan sa Bahay Tsinoy na meron palang tinatawag na Kapitan Chino. So may chair doon na nakalagay, yun yung chair ng Kapitan Chino, na siya pala ang parang tumatayong gobernadorsilyo ng Binondo. Oh? At of course, alam natin na malapit lang yung Binondo sa Pasig River na madaling ma-access sa Manila Bay, and that's why naging sentro din ng commercial activity ang Binondo. At natural yan kasi maraming mga Chinese, no? Dahil talagang may kasipagan. At itong tinatawag natin na mga kasko ay bahagi ng kwentong yon. Okay, so ito, some of the things that are here in the old drawings were depicted in Bahay Tsinoy. No? Makikita natin. So, for example, the old house depicted by Jose Honorato Lozano, no? Itong bahay na ito yung medyo eksena na pinapakita dito. So we all know that the galleon trade stopped in 1811. The galleon trade stopped in 1811 because of the Mexican Revolution. And because of this, economic activity flowed from other nationalities like the Germans, the British, the Dutch, and so on, the French. And what happened was, nagkaroon ng tinatawag natin na partnership between the foreign investors and the Indios and the Chinese mestizos. Nagkaroon ng pera ngayon, yung mga Chinese mestizos and Indios na ito, that eventually they were able to afford a high quality of life and education. And their children will be called ilustrados. So ito yung pinapakita ngayon. Kaya marami sa mga ilustrados were actually Filipino-Chinese at that time. The writers of La Solidaridad, Jose Rizal is 4th generation Chinese from Domingo Lamco, who was, of course, a merchant. And Rizal is, of course, depicted in Bahay Tsinoy as he was having his last days in Dapitan. Gregorio Sancianco, who wrote El Progreso de Filipinas, which I depicted as a cameo role in a soap opera on Jose Rizal, ilustrado. Kasi ako daw yung Tsinoy. So, nag-cameo ako. Ako si Gregorio Sancianco. No? And of course, in the army of Emilio Aguinaldo. Emilio Aguinaldo himself, obviously, ay may Chinese roots. But of course, there is Jose Ignacio Paua. Jose Ignacio Paua. Quite controversial, of course. Kinikwento din natin yan. He was involved in the killing of, in the arrest of Andres Bonifacio. Pero we also have to be fair to him that he participated in the birth of the nation and some of our victories in the revolution. And of course, my favorite guy, si Ong Pin. Si Ong Pin, Roman Ong Pin, who is an art dealer. Yung mga pictures nila nasa isang room dyan sa Bahay Tsinoy. That you see that the Tsinoys, the Chinese in the Philippines were part of the nation building, the birth of the nation. Roman Ong Pin was just an art seller, but he was patriotic. Patriotic to the Philippines, to the cause of Filipino freedom. Roman Ong Pin was, yung kanyang shop ay doon naghuhugpungan sina Antonio Luna, Juan Luna, the Patriots. Doon siya nagbebenta ng La Solidaridad, ng Noli Me Tangere, ng El Filibusterismo. That's why eventually he was suspected even by the Americans. And they jailed him. When his L-82 burned, anong ginawa niya? Yung insurance money that was given to him, he gave to Emilio Aguinaldo for the revolution. So the guy is so patriotic that he wanted to be buried in Barong Tagalog. So yan si Roman Ong Pin. Kaya may Ong Pin tayo sa Binondo. Of course, you have Pedro Paterno. Well, of course, you don't like him because he was, so in the revolution. But do not discount his contribution to Filipino culture. Pedro Paterno collected books that eventually will become the National Library and collected artifacts which will eventually become the National Museum. He was one of the authors of the National Library Law during the Philippine Assembly. And talagang, despite the fact that he was, of course, eventually his studies will be outdated, his first studies became the inspiration of many other future studies about our being Filipino. Of course, Mariano Limhap is there, Pascual Poblete, all of them were contributors to the propaganda movement. And ayan, and of course, ito, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if I am correct, pero there's one person in the, si Pascual Poblete, is part of the establishment of the Philippine Independent Church, Iglesia Filipina Independiente. With Isabelo de los Reyes, and of course, eventually, ipapasok nila si Gregorio Aglipay. Okay. La Tondena, of course, was founded by Carlos Palanca Tanchinlay. And of course, we know him because of the Memorial Awards for Literature. no? And many others. Ito yung isang compelling display for me in Bahay Tsinoy. This is what I miss. I miss going to this very simple cabinet. Parang cabinet lang yan, ganyan. It doesn't mean anything. But for me, it's one of the most important assets of Bahay Tsinoy because it was an actual table used by a guerrilla unit to hide their guns, no, and to hide documents. So, diyan mo pinapakita na yung role of the Chinese Filipinos in our struggle for freedom to get back our democracy from the Japanese through the Wachi and the other guerrilla units na Chinese. Of course, eventually, no, may Chiang Kai-shek group, no, and all of that. Of course, nag-unite sila ng World War II, even in China, the Kuomintang, headed by Jiang Jieshi, Chiang Kai-shek, and Mao Zedong, the communists. But alam naman natin, eventually, after the war, magigera ulit sila. And so the Maoist revolution will win in 1949, October 1, 1949, and the People's Republic of China will be born. Now, hindi masyadong nalalaman at nalaman ko lang because of Bahay Tsinoy, we actually have a high-ranking officer in the Chinese Communist Party, no? General Ye Pei or Sixto Chong Koyap. If I'm not mistaken, he came from Chaong, Quezon. So, the Filipinos, meron tayong ambag. Filipino-Chinese, may ambag doon sa history, political history ng China. Of course, I told you about Marcos, who at first, tinanggal niya yung mga signages, pinautos niya tanggalin ang mga Chinese signages sa mga Chinese businesses. But eventually, of course, you will be instrumental to the naturalization of Filipino-Chinese to be eventually accepted as Filipinos. There's a whole hall in the Bahay Tsinoy, second floor, in which some of the most important Filipinos that we know actually have Chinese blood, like Cardinal Sin, Corazon Aquino. You have Betty Go Belmonte, whom we only know now as an MRT station, LRT2 station, but she is actually a Philippine Star founder and a hero against the dictatorship. No? And of course, you have Jose Marie Chan. Of course, we all know him as the Pied Piper of Filipino Christmas. His song, Christmas in Our Hearts, is so iconic that some of my students that I was touring in 2019 cannot stop themselves from singing in front of his picture. Kaya lang, video clip, share sound. Okay.
And a happy holiday this season, may we never forget the love we have for Jesus. He'll be the one to guide us until the New Year start. And may the spirit of Christmas be always in our hearts. Yay!
So sorry po kung bawal yun, ano? Bawal kumanta pero hindi talaga nila napigilan
Let's
na magkantahan. Ano? One important thing to me was the hologram in the third or fourth floor yun. Third floor yung library, di ba? And then you have fourth. Tama ba? Yeah. There's a whole floor na hindi ko na i-cover because we have no time. But there's one, the opening there, kasi doon na yung Chinese businesses, how we impact the economy. One thing that I really like was the monologue in the hologram. Una, in the year 2000s, if you see a hologram, medyo exciting yun. Exciting yun, ano? And then, tatlong state, di ba tatlo yan eh? Tatlo yung beses siyang magpapalit ng anyo. It's really exciting. Kung paano nag-transition from being a migrant to being part of the Philippines ang isang Tsinoy, no? At yung monologue na yon really touched me because kahit ako, doon na ako na-realize na yung Chinese in the Philippines, hindi siya monolithic. No? And even if I don't already have the Chinese culture, the heritage is still there. Therefore, I am still Tsinoy. And may mga Tsinoy din na, kumbaga, iba-ibang ka-Tsinoyan. Pero lahat yan ay Tsinoy. At lahat yan ay Pilipino. Yun yung pinaka-importante. Remember this, Bahay Tsinoy is able to prove to many people in the museum and in its works in the most tangible way that we belong. We belong. Kasama tayo sa kasaysayan at kultura ng bayang ito ng Pilipinas. No? Yan ang pinakamagandang contribution. One single greatest contribution of Bahay Tsinoy, because as you have seen in the first part, we did not belong. Mako-confuse ka ba? 'Di ba? Alam ko Chinese ka, may Chinese blood ka, pero hindi ka naman taga-China. Sino ka? Sino ka? Napakahirap nun. Kung walang Bahay Tsinoy, ano na lang ang understanding ng marami sa atin. And that's why I salute Miss Ma'am Tessie Angsi. For me, she is a hero. A living hero. And not just a living hero, a nation builder. One of our most prolific nation builder, because nation building is in the ideas, in the realm of ideas. And Tessie Angsi is able to contribute that we are Filipinos. That Tsinoy is a Filipino. No? And of course, even as recently, before the pandemic, we are still able to attend some of her talks. Yung mga estudyante ng Lasal, dinadala din namin doon. And she would oblige to give a few talks. Of course, nandiyan na si Ma'am Mea Angsi. No? Of course, Anson now is helping us in the merch. And by the way, I would like to flex our merch. T-shirt from Bahay Tsinoy. No? Na marami yan, ano, yung mga Binondo cigarette labels and all of that, no, that you can buy from Anson of Bahay Tsinoy. And of course, si Ivan Mandy is always helping us. There's social media now. So please subscribe to Bahay Tsinoy and Kaisa para sa Kaunlaran Facebook pages. So you will have information how to distinguish, no, the different Tsinoys. No, nandyan yan and all the other information that you need. So thank you for that, Bahay Tsinoy. So Bahay Tsinoy also was Instagrammable during that time. We should wait for it to open again. And I am sure it would be more Instagrammable than ever. No? And why do we need all of this? Why do we need all of this? Because despite the fact that there might be difficulties in our relationship with the Chinese government, hindi ibig sabihin nun that we should you know, be at odds also with the Chinese people, Chongkoren, and also with the culture. These are things that, you know, remember that yes, I might not agree with some of the things that they do, but China is our neighbor. That is, yan ang talagang kailangan nating maintindihan dito. And we should continue to have very good relationship with them and understanding with the Chinese people, but also to understand also and to, you know, to also realize that the Chinese in the Philippines are Filipinos. Our loyalty is not with China. Just like the Chinese Filipinos before us. Yung mga ninuno namin na naghirap, nagsumikap, yung mga ninuno namin na walang tahanan, pero kinupkop ng mahal na inang Pilipinas at tumubo na dito sa Pilipinas at naging maginhawa dito sa Pilipinas at patuloy na nagkakaroon ng struggles dito sa Pilipinas. Mahal namin ng bayang ito. Kasi sa panahon na ang mga ninuno namin ay walang-wala, ito ang bayan na nagbigay sa amin ng pagkakataon upang gumawa ng pangalan at makibahagi sa pagbubuo ng Pilipinas. So, mga kaibigan, so uli, thank you very much, 24 years of Bahay Tsinoy, and even longer than that. No? Thank you, Kaisa. Thank you for making us feel that we belong. Hindi niyo alam kung gaano ka-importante yon sa amin. Mabuhay po tayong lahat at mabuhay ang mga Tsinoy, mabuhay ang Pilipinas.
Thank you very much for that very comprehensive and insightful talk, Professor Xiao. Napakalawak at napakalalim ng talaga ng papel ng Bahay Tsinoy sa paghubog ng pag-unawa sa kasaysayan ng Tsinoys at Pinoy sa Pilipinas. And we are also very grateful na even while the museum is undergoing renovation, parang ang pakiramdam meron na rin kaming naging preview of the different exhibits and information that we can learn once the museum will open once again. So thank you very much for that very interesting, engaging, and entertaining talk. Before we move to our question and answer portion, we would like to first request that we do a group picture together. And we would like to remind the audience that we are still on. Okay, so I'd like to request the assistance of our technical group so that we can do our group picture.
All right.
Okay.
For a while.
Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody smile and say, rabbit! O sige,
Yeah.
cheese na lang.
Okay.
All right.
And another one, 11 page ata pala to. Dali lang, 11 page pala to. Palit ang aking screen. Sa Kyaotyong yata, pwede kami mga 100 page. May ganyan kami to.
I removed na the pages with non-videos.
Okay.
So you can, I think we're just down to 4 pages.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, great. Nice to see everyone's faces. If I may lang, I'd like to say hi to my dad and my mom. Thanks for joining the webinar also tonight. Okay. So now let's move to the next exciting portion, the question and answer. If there are still people who want to ask questions, feel free to post your questions in the chat. In the meantime, let's start with a few that have already been shared. Okay, so Professor Xiao, if you're ready.
By the way, if I do not know the answer, I will ask Maya or Ma'am Tessie, because they're the real historians of Chinese Filipino history. I am just a public historian. But I will tell you if I do not know how to answer it. Sige.
Okay, you have a good support in place, ha? Okay, so the first question is, what do we tell Filipinos who still see Tsinoys as aliens?
Actually, I will tell you something. First of all, we still experience that. In a certain town in Bulacan, there's still a strong anti-Chinese sentiment. Parang there was one time I talked about Philippine history in SM. I will not say the name of the town. And yung sinabi sa akin is, ito parang nagulat ako, why is it a big deal? Sabi niya, sir, your talk was great, but you are Chinese. Parang, I was taken aback, no? Na parang, what? Anong kinalaman nun doon sa sinabi ko? And of course, a lot of people now, because I use the screen name, Xiao Chua, because I have trolls who don't like what I am saying, kasi nasabi nila na bakit ang nagkukwento ng Philippine history ay Chinese. At first, I was hurt. I was hurt because the only treasure that I have is my being Filipino. And this is being taken away from me just because of my heritage. And siguro, I now help to answer the question, there's nothing that we can say really to convince people to love us or not to love, to accept us. Diba? To accept us. But we just continue the conversation. So, one thing I did, hindi ko lang nailagay sa lecture ko, because of Bahay Tsinoy's influence to me, I wrote an Esquire article about racism. And I said that Filipinos are racist. Diba? Parang tayo galit na galit pag nagre-racist against us, but Filipinos are also racist. And this is the truth. Meron tayong tendencies to be racist, especially with the Indians and the Chinese and the blacks. No? Yan ang kailangang kaya parang wag tayong magalit. Hindi, wag magalit. Itama natin yung ganong klaseng pananaw. And even sometimes may ganon pa rin. Kasi yan ay, ang tawag sa programs eh. You are programmed to think it that way. And you have to fight it. It's a struggle to fight it. Diba? Tapos syempre, meron pa tayong dispute with the West Philippine Sea, South China Sea. Nagkakaroon pa na hahalo-halo pa yan. So, pero yun na nga, understanding history is the only way to understand each other. It is a history that should unite us because we are able to understand better. And I think in that respect, Bahay Tsinoy was able to help a lot of people.
Thank you very much. And I think the learning about our history really helps to open the mind for inclusivity, you know? So next question. Kanina, someone posted on the chat stories or references to Chinese in other parts of the country. And I think that Ms. Tessie Angsi has already replied. There are books on Tsinoys in other parts of the country, and these are all available in Bahay Tsinoy once it opens. But if you're excited and can't wait, please feel free to check out the Shopee site of Bahay Tsinoy, and maybe the book will be there for you.
Another thing that Bahay Tsinoy inspired are other Filipino-Chinese museums around the country. No? Of course, wala naman siguro makakatanggi. Nauna tayo. So you have now the Binondo Chinatown Museum in a mall in Binondo. And in Cebu, I saw already before they opened yung Chinese Filipino Museum in Cebu, which is I think in front of the City Hall of Cebu. So puntahan nyo, it's a very beautiful building, very historic building in Cebu. At nandoon yung Chinese Filipino Museum doon. No? The Sugbo Museum. Yes, tama. Thank you, Ang Chak Chi. Yes. Puntahan. Napaganda.
Xiao, can I add some?
Yes po, please.
Even the Chinese museum in Malaysia, they came to our museum 3 times. Even the Chinese museum in Guangzhou, before they open, they come to us to see the setup, the display, and I'd like to tell you that Malaysia, they do have a bigger Chinese population than us, but our museum is ahead of them. Why?
Wow.
So this is something that we proud of, and during that time, during our time, the 1999, we are the biggest private museum in the world, in Asia. So we can consider the biggest Chinese museum, not Chinese museum about China in the world during that time.
Wow.
Right now, the Malaysian museum, if they open the second hall, they will be bigger than us. But they still not yet open. Okay. Thank
you, Sir Michael. Ma'am Tessie Angsi said that also the one in Palawan were influenced. The museum in Palawan was influenced also by Bahay Tsinoy.
Well, it also shares the same designer. The designer of is Eva Peñamora.
Does my mic sound
saw
good?
the Bahay Tsinoy Museum, and they saw how it was executed. So, and then a lot of other places like in Pampanga, They also saw the Bahay Tsinoy Museum, and they plan to put up theirs, no? And in some other places like the Tarlac, Aquino, Hacienda de Luisita, and the one in Ilocos, of course, Bahay Tsinoy is the one who pointed out some of the mistakes
Bye.
in their museum.
Wait.
Okay, thank you.
Hey. I have.
Thank you for that. There's a question that's connected to the first one.
So-
Is this racist outlook innate to us or product of our colonial
No.
experiences? And connected to that, was there an anti-China, anti-Indian, or anti-foreigner attitude prior to colonization?
Yeah. Well, that's the one who asked the question is Romel Banlawi, who is like an expert, okay? So I rather refer him to Ma'am Tessie Angsi. Meron ba? Meron bang anti-Chinese sentiment sa mga records? Mahirap sagutin ito because the records are lacking, right?
Well, in early times, there's no such thing naman as a differentiation of race. It's more the
Yeah.
outsiders. It's the anti-Chinese, the anti-Indians. It's more you as an outsider and me as insider. So even the Chinese, no, we call ourselves lanlang, tao natin. The outsiders are na tao natin, ganon.
Okay.
So, but the racism and the anti-Chinese really is a product of colonial experience. Imagine
Right.
300 years of Spanish persecution against the Chinese and discrimination against the Chinese. And then the Chinese exclusion law applied by the Americans, and the Americans, of course, divide and rule, separated us from the mainstream society psychologically, no? More long-term yung effect kasi it's psychological by separating you, giving you your own schools and everything. So the colonial experience, no, is has a deep set influence in the Filipino psyche. It's not easy to just erase it, but that is the reason why Bahay Tsinoy has been put up, why we have to lie, that a bridge of understanding between two cultures, a bridge of tolerance between two ages, because we do have to bridge also the young generation like Xiao and our generation, diba? The bridge of understanding, because there's always many misunderstanding. But colonial experience, the influence is really far-reaching. So we have to continue. For those who say that who still don't accept us as Filipino, then let us respect that and tell them, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but I have lived my life as a Filipino. I have stand up. I'm comfortable in my Filipino identity, but I'm also very proud of my Chinese Filipino heritage. So we hope that one day you can see what it is, no? To be ourselves. Just accept who you are. Don't worry
Right.
about what others think about you.
Tama.
No? But as Xiao said, correct them also from time to time. Thank you.
And the work of Bahay Tsinoy doesn't stop even after many years. Kung 24 years tayo, even in the next 50 years, 100 years, because new people are being born. And like me, in my generation, and then may bago na naman. My students here probably didn't know all this discourse, perhaps. Then they can also learn from Bahay Tsinoy and all the generations hereafter. Hopefully, you will be steadfast, you will stand firm, and be creative in managing the resources so that it will be sustainable for many years. That is my prayer for Bahay Tsinoy. Just to add to the discussion on pre-colonial, bigla ko lang naalala yung discussion namin ni Professor Dr. Vicente Villan of UP Diliman. There are early Visayan folklore wherein one of the heroes wanted to court binukot. No? One of the wanted to quote the binukot. No? And the wanted to court the binukot, a warrior, a king, a datu. And then the datu said, to the binukot, how will you accept my love? Salakayin mo ang Bisaya, something like that. O salakayin mo ang Panay. Di sinalakay niya. Nung nasalakay niya, nasalakay ko na. And then sabi nung binukot, hindi pa rin, sabi niya. Salakayin mo muna ang ganitong lugar. And then eventually sinabi niya, salakayin mo muna ang China. China, they have pre-colonial to. They have already as of China. They have a consciousness of China. Yeah. And of course, eventually, of course, sabi nung babaeng binukot, nasalakay ko na ang China. In their folklore, nasalakay nila ang China. Sabi nung babae, binukot, salakayin mo muna ang langit. Ay, yung langit hindi na niya kayang salakayin. So, ano siya, kumbaga, busted siya kahit nasalakay na niya yung China. But this is where you see na tama si Ma'am Tessiaxi, loob, labas, and then you have what we call loob, labas, and yung tinatawag natin na yung consciousness na China bilang isang malakas na imperyo noon pa man sa mga Pilipino. Okay? Thank you. By the way, meron akong troll dito na nagpapanggap na ako. No? At kung ano-ano ang isinusulat. Tanggalin nyo yan.
Okay, good. Thanks for letting us know. Okay, so maybe we can just do one more question para naman na hindi rin masyadong late for the students who have joined us. There is a question here about are there any studies on the similarities or differences in terms of culture, belief, and practices between Tsinoys for different generations? So I guess parang with the generations, nagbabago rin ba yung mga nagiging beliefs and practices ng mga Tsinoys?
Well, I think change is always constant, and you see that in various forms. So I will talk to this in general terms because we have no time. Okay, I will not go into specifics. Pero for example, yung mga practices ng mga Chinese in the Philippines, na may pagka-Buddhist, may pagka-Catholic, di ba? At they don't see any contradiction to that. Now, that may change over time, some of the practices, pero ang mangyayari dyan is the diwa will still be the same. Ibig sabihin, there will be consciousness that will remain the same for many, many years. Ano? So, but it will change because change is always constant. Pero yung diwa, ganun pa din. It's the same even in Philippine culture. Ganyan naman yan. So, change is always constant.
Okay, I think that's all the questions that we have time for tonight. And again, we thank you, Professor Xiao, for the insights and the deeper learning that we have gained from your talk today. So let's now move to the next portion. Professor Xiao, as a token of our appreciation, we will send you the gift of, please help me if my pronunciation is incorrect, Shangyuan balls, or better known as peanut balls. So for everyone's awareness, peanut balls are named as such because it has sweetened crushed peanut fillings. The peanut balls are boiled in water with ginger and rock sugar and added mandarin peels or other varied ingredients to enhance the flavors. So President Mike will be sending this over to you so that you can enjoy it over the weekend, and we hope that you and your girlfriend will have a good dessert. Nice to meet her also.
Aside from the peanut ball, in Chinese it's zhongwani. So I will add something, my personal, the wine from my collections. Okay, thank you.
Oh, wow. Okay. So to close this evening's fellowship, may I now call on Bahay Tsinoy Director, Mr. Baldwin Ko, for our closing remarks.
Okay. Ah, ako'y masayang-masaya. Professor Xiao, maraming salamat, no? Sana pag reopen namin, magdala pa rin kayo ng mga estudyante niyo sa ating museo, no? Kami sa Kaisa, we always tell, no, especially sa Chinese Filipino community, that the museum is ours, no? So it is not just Ma'am Tessie or kami, no? Mabuhay, maraming salamat sa inyong lahat, sa inyong pagdalo, no? Naway tuloy-tuloy ang support natin sa Bahay Tsinoy Museum, no? It is a repository of our story that strengthen our cultural identity towards a strong nation, no? I was very emotional kanina. I saw a lot of youth, a lot of student attending, no? I hope that you learn a lot from our beloved Professor Xiao. Bahay Tsinoy is the legacy of Kaisa para sa Kaunlaran and the entire Chinese Filipino Tsinoy community to the world, no? We look forward to its reopening. Actually, miss na miss ko na siya. Doon kami nag-exhibit every year, nag-art exhibit every year. Mag-volunteer po kayo sa amin. Yeah. Kaisa para sa Kaunlaran, the one behind Bahay Tsinoy Museum, is actually a volunteer organization. At kami tumatanda na rin at kailangan natin ng susunod na henerasyon, no? Mukha po kami mga seryoso, pero si Professor Xiao today gave us another parang present niya in one way or the other ang other mukha ng Kaisa, no? Mga kengkoy po kami. I meant mga people behind Bahay Tsinoy, no? So pag mag-reopen kami, please visit us, and also you can participate in our mga volunteer opportunities, no? We have a lot, no? History is indeed fun. It is, of course, it is a science and discipline, but life is all about learning, no? The past and present are always connected, and it is the key to open our future, no? Maraming salamat again, everyone, and to our founders on this 24th anniversary. I look forward to our silver anniversary next year. To the founders of Kaisa para sa Kaunlaran, including its predecessor, and also Professor Chin Bensi, how I wish na-meet ko siya, no, during his lifetime, no. By the way, today is Professor Xiao birthday. Again, maligayang kaarawan, Professor. Yan. Thank you very much. Hanggang sa muli. Yan. Mabuhay.
Thank you, Baldwin, for your closing remarks. Again, yeah.
Okay, sorry. Baldwin, can you flash our socials, please? And then I have some technical announcements. Hello, everybody. This is Maya from Bahay Tsinoy. Please follow us on our socials. And as Xiao was flexing our products, we are on Shopee. Look for us, Bahay Tsinoy Museum on Shopee. Follow us on our socials, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, Bahay Tsinoy. For those who would like to receive certificates of attendance, if you need it, please message us on Facebook Messenger in Bahay Tsinoy, or email us at bahaytsinoy@gmail.com. I'm putting that in the chat right now. Email us bahaytsinoy@gmail.com and request for your certificate of attendance. We will cross-reference that with the Zoom attendance list. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you to the students and the teachers who required their students to come.
Maya, can I make an announcement?
Let me just stop recording first. Yes, go ahead.
There are two very important